Can you all see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Cool. Okay. All right. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session that we are having virtually after a long time, by the way. It's hosted by the Malaysia Trailblazer groups. So Anna is one of our co-leads here as well, leading the Women in Tech group. So we have a couple of great topics today by two awesome solution architects in the community. Josefin is from IB Group in Sydney. In Sydney, and then Meera is part of UST as a solution architect in India as well. So two awesome topics. One is on marketing cloud personalization. The other one is on data cloud. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them on some of their perspectives on how do you do implementations on these two. Okay? So a couple of uh, things that we just want to share. You can use the chat window, like Anna said, to go ahead just jotting down any questions that you have during the session. After each of the sessions, we will probably give around 5 minutes to address some of those. And if there's still questions remaining, we will actually take it on chat, and then you can even reach out to the speakers offline through their social channels if possible, and then you can continue to ask questions as well. Okay. Hopefully, very insightful. I will stop sharing. I'll pass it to Josephine and take it away.
Okay, awesome. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So today I will be taking you through the Marketing Cloud Personalization platform. It will be a presentation based off website and data architecture, so a bit of a deep dive with important considerations, etc., prior to actually building out an implementation. So I work as a solution architect for IVE Group. I'm based in Sydney, and I have been specialized within Marketing Cloud Personalization for the past 3 years, I believe. All right. So what is MCP? So MCP stands for Marketing Cloud Personalization. So it was launched in 2018 and acquired by Salesforce in 2020. The platform is formerly known as Evergage, as well as Interaction Studio, but now is called Marketing Cloud Personalization. So MCP empowers businesses to build lasting customer relationships, and this is done by gathering massive amount of data of their customers to be combining in-store as well as online activity to build a complete picture. So by doing this, you'll be able to personalize website experiences. So you can tailor your content on your website based on each unique needs for the visitors and see what really matters most to them in real time. You will be doing this by delivering consistent messaging. This will be done between different platforms. So not only on the website, this can also be through email, SMS, and social channels, for example. So you will also be able to empower your customer service team. A good example of this is because of the data that is actually being tracked live on a website, for example, that can then tailor a customer service representative script when they're talking to a potential customer, for example. And an example of this as well is the ability to unleash the power of data-driven sales. So what you can see here is the Northern Trail Outfitters website. So there's 3 promotions going on here. This can be highly personalized depending on a person's previous engagement and browsing data, for example, as well as geographical location. As you can see in the middle there might be a weather-based promotion that is going on. We might know that I reside in Sydney, it might be extremely cold and rainy, or really sunny. So that is an example of what actually can be tailored based on who you are as a person, where you live, and your previous engagements. So let's have a look at the implementation itself. So the implementation cycle, it consists of discovery phase, design, development, test, QA, and UAT, as well as deployment. A rough guideline for how long an implementation takes. Obviously, this depends on the complexity of it and how many use cases you might have, but I would say between 10 to 12 weeks is quite realistic. Discovery would usually run 1 to 2 weeks. Design phase, I would say roughly around 2 weeks. That's when you develop a solution design document and then gets signed off by the business that you're doing it for. Then you commence the development phase that usually runs across 4 weeks. And then the test, QA, and UAT phase is roughly 2 weeks as well. And then finally, the deployment happens. Okay, so the design phase, what we want to start to look at, which is really important, and I would say that the design phase of an MCP implementation is the most crucial part to get this right. So what you want to do first is to understand the data architecture of the business. And by doing this, you would look at the different type of data platforms that you currently have. You will look into the CRM to see the different object structures and how user data is being captured and contained within those platforms. Then you would research the website structure of the websites that you will be implementing MCP on. This is important because you need to understand how it's actually being built and how it's being processed backend. And then finally, individualization for the specific use cases that you decide to implement for a business is very important for scalability in the future. So an example of this is the general recommended use cases. They might not be suitable for the business itself. So it's really important to look into business requirements, how the business is looking like, and are we going to be able to scale from the use cases that we decide to implement. So we want to have a strong foundation of use cases that we start with and then being able to build up as we go. So data and website architecture. A business data architecture goes hand in hand with the architecture of the website. So it's really important to understand how it's being connected before planning and implementation. And you probably are thinking, where would you start really to decide on the architecture of this? So with MCP, the platform is divided up into different data sets. If you've never been inside a platform before, you can look at it similar to Marketing Cloud's business units. So you can decide on if you want to have everything contained in one data set or if you need to separate out your data into different data sets. And by deciding on this, you would start with looking at, okay, do you as a business have several domains or is it only one? We also want to look at, will the audience be consistent across the different websites? And are you offering the same type of product catalog across them? As well as, does your business exist in different regions? So you might have one in Australia, maybe one in New Zealand, maybe in Europe, etc. So that is things to take into consideration as well. And also to check if the particular stock of your website, are they consistent between the regions as well? So from this type of information, then you can determine if you need multiple data sets, which means that you are separating out your data, or if you can contain everything in one data set. And a tip here is to, you can use a dynamic sitemap for small inconsistencies. So, which means you don't need to separate out 3 different sitemaps just because you have 3 websites. You might be able to utilize one and make it dynamic. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a second. Okay, so this is a high-level data architecture diagram. This comes from Salesforce, so you can find this online on their website. I have modified it just slightly to show you guys of how the data is flowing between the different platforms. So for example, in this, you have Experience Cloud as well as Interaction Studio, which is we're referring to as MCP now, connecting to Data Cloud as well as Marketing Cloud. And what you can see here is basically, okay, so we might be capturing data in MCP that is being ingested into Data Cloud for further analyzations, as well as segmentation for more powerful segments, etc. That might be pushed into Marketing Cloud, but you can also push data directly from MCP into Marketing Cloud as a trigger. And same goes with any type of data that goes into Data Cloud. That can also be segmented out and activated both into MCP as well as Marketing Cloud. So it's a pretty good overview of how the data flows between the platforms here. Okay, so then we got data ingestion. So we'll start to talk about ETLs. ETL stands for extract, transform, load. What this means is that you are importing data into MCP through ETLs that usually comes from external data sources. This can be automated in SFMC's automation studio. So it really depends on what type of platform a business has. But I would recommend if they do have Marketing Cloud and a lot of data is contained there specifically, could be tracking data, anything that SFMC is capturing themselves as well. It's really easy to utilize Automation Studio to then create a proper structure for the ETLs to then push the data into MCP. And here you have a list of the different ETLs that are available. There are more being added as well, so this might not be a complete list. But I've highlighted the user ETL because that's probably the number one that you will be looking at when you're configuring this. Okay, so how do we prepare user data in Marketing Cloud to then be sent into MCP? So what you need to have is your data sources and your user data sets planned out and available to use in SFMC. An important consideration here is that you need to look at the ETL structure. So each ETL, the user ETL and the product ETL might have different requirements. This is available in Salesforce documentations as well that you can find online. But you need to structure it specifically to what the particular ETL is, which means that a user ETL might have specific field names. So you need to plan that out first, create your data extensions, and then you will go into and write your SQL queries to segment out the audience to make sure that, okay, we do have a complete list of users that we want to be pushing in through the ETLs. And then once that's done, you can then automate this to be an automatic process to push the data into the ETLs and then into MCP from SFMC. So some important considerations here is you want to carefully review the CRM data structure to look at what CRM objects you need to reach your current and future use cases. You obviously don't want to bring in all the data that you have, but you need to make it relevant as well as think of, okay, do we have a roadmap of use cases coming up in the next 2 years? Are there certain objects that would be crucial to include at this point in time that will be needed down the road? And you want to plan how to structure your user data to avoid duplicates as well. MCP does sort that out, but it is important to clean your data prior to ingestion. And the reason for this is because otherwise MCP might decide on which record to use if it's duplicates. Also, if you have your CRM in SFDC, you want to push only new records through the user ETL. The reason for this is because of processing times and the fact that there is a direct integration between SFDC to MCP that you can update your data through. And I'll talk about that more in a little bit. What's good to do as well is to keep a log in SFMC to check against prior to ingestion to make sure that there isn't any records that's already gone through this process in the past. All right. So there's a tip here to dedupe your user data prior to ingestion to MCP. The only reason for this is because it's going through the ETL. That means that MCP looks at the data. Let's say I have 2 duplicate records of my email address. MCP is not going to look at any specific values of that data to decide on, okay, I should be using this. They look at, okay, these records came in at the same time. So then they're going to select which record to update my user based off a random basis. So you can gain a little bit more control back there by deduping your user data in that SQL automation in Marketing Cloud that I spoke about earlier. And you can look at, for example, if it's coming from SFTC, it's pretty straightforward with the recent modified date could be one of those deciding factors of which records to be pushing through the ETLs. Okay, user identity. So each data set needs an ID structure. And what you want to look at is what are the IDs that you will be capturing. This can, for example, be customer IDs, Salesforce CRM contact IDs, as well as Marketing Cloud contact keys or email address. You want to keep in mind what the ID you will be capturing primarily, not because the data resides in data extensions with primary keys like it does in Marketing Cloud. Is more of just having the understanding and the knowledge of what is kind of like the main ID for each user record for this particular business. And once you have established these, where do you capture them? So an example here to the right is an email sign-up form. It's very simple. You just type in your email address, but that will be one of the identification structures that you will be capturing. And this can also be something if a business offers to log in to their website. And what you want to have a look at there as well is how does this connect with your database and CRM. So for user in particular, we want to understand and make a decision about the structure for the user attributes. So we got the IDs, and now we want to look at what else do we need. So usually information about a person, first name, last name, date of birth. A lot of this information is probably already captured in your database and will be pushed into MCP through ETLs. However, there might be additional ones that you need to capture for your use cases through the sitemap. And you have an example here below as well of a listener where there might be a sign-up form with additional information to be captured that we then will be sending in through the event API to MCP platform. To keep in mind here is that the unified user profile allows a maximum of 100 user attributes. So you don't want to grab everything, just the ones that are relevant, important, and will build up your use cases. This will result in a unified user profile. So you can see here is an example of it in the MCP platform. You have the affinity wheel as well, etc. Right. So the Sales and Service Cloud connector, I spoke about that briefly in a previous slide. So there is an integration between MCP and Sales and Service Cloud, and it goes both ways. So the connector offers push and pull options for user data in particular. And this is a great way to update the data directly from CRM instead of going through Marketing Cloud, for example. So this is what I was talking about. If you have new data that needs to go through the ETLs or potentially the sitemap, but this integration is excellent because any type of data that is being updated, then that can be done through the integration instead of Automation Studio and Marketing Cloud, for example. And then as you can see on the picture is the different type of data that is being sent into SFDC from MCP. So you can have anything from engagement to date first visited, etc. So it's a lot of great information to be capturing through that connector into SFDC. This can be viewed by customer support staff, etc. So it's really, really good. The only thing that I would call out is to be cautious for instances when your CRM data is pushing updated records to external parties. If it's a bulk update, that means that all of this data that MCP is pushing through the connector also will be sent. So it might end up in a mass update of records in CRM. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we got the catalog. So the catalog of MCP consists of item data, which is captured and added to a shadow catalog in the user interface. You can either ingest this data through ETL, or you can also capture it on sitemaps or event APIs. The shadow catalog is used to create an understanding of the customer's relationship to the item, which the website is selling and promoting. The catalog also allows MCP to identify affinities, which the customer is viewing, and this can be color, size, etc., and those are called related catalog objects. So the catalog objects can be product or services that the business offers, and this is building up the shadow catalog, which reflects the content of the website or the mobile. You can have brands, products, services, articles, blogs, etc. And this is how it looks when you're configuring them in settings in MCP platform. Okay, we also got catalog items. So the site catalog can include categories, which builds up a hierarchy and sorts the catalog objects into the same structure as they appear on the website. Examples of categories can be home goods, camping, winter wear, and you have an example here on the right of Northern Trail Outfitters type of category structure. All right, let's move on to site mapping. So what is a sitemap? So this is a JavaScript overlay on the website itself through a Salesforce plugin. You can see an example of code, sitemap code here to the right. Obviously, it will be a lot more than that once you've completed a development of the sitemap itself. But this is how it looks. So while you're writing your code, you will actually see how that is being captured and utilized on the website itself. So it's a pretty good interface to cross-check your development while you do it. So we got a few important considerations here with site mapping. When you're planning this out, you want to start off with to check what language the website is built on. For example, if it's React, then you might need to reconsider your approach. And the reason for that is because the way React is writing website code is different, which means that there might not be available data to be captured through the sitemap, so you might need to go through a different approach for that. You want to check how the website is populating product data. So for example, if it's a multi-site implementation, does all websites use a similar data population structure? You also want to check if there is any data layers and metadata used to populate information. You want to talk to the client's web development team, if they have one, to check what data layers are in use. And the reason for this is because data layers and metadata are the recommended approach of capturing data through the sitemap. You also do want to check if the company requires a secure catalog configuration, because that means that the data cannot be captured through the sitemap, so it has to go through ETLs. All right, so the sitemap is using a cache-DOM library. So MCP has its own library to reference in your JavaScript development. And depending on what the chosen SDK namespace is, you can use Salesforce interactions.cachedom or evergage.cachedom. If this is a new implementation, the recommended approach is a Salesforce interactions. The evergage is the older version, but it's still being in use, and it's fine if it's a legacy implementation. It's recommended to use the cachedom library instead of jQueries or others, as cachedom remain unaffected by updates. To look at the data capturing plan, before you start a development, you want to make sure that you reach out and plan the best areas to capture your data from. So things to look for is obviously how the website is currently being built, what code is in use, data layers, as well as metadata. What pages you want to track. You don't need to write out every single page for tracking purposes if it's not required. An MVP implementation might only be on specific pages, and then you can build it up from there. You want to check for if there's any login services, as well as the catalog structure, if there's any categories, product locations, identity capture, user attributes, as well as cart location and any purchase pages as well. So the different ways to capture data through the sitemap, I've touched on this just earlier as well. So you got data layer and meta tags. Both of them are recommended. Just be careful using third-party vendors, as that might not be reliable. Meta tags, for example, has built-in resolvers to capture data, which is a great way to utilizing that. Item props, so it's used to add properties to an element on the site page. It holds a description of the content in the element itself, and you can use Salesforce resolvers to retrieve the data value from item props. JSON LD, this is a way of describing elements on a page with structured data. You can parse and retrieve data from JSON LDs with resolvers, and that can be done by either retrieving entire objects or single elements. URLs are also a great place to capture data. They can contain very valuable data. For example, a product URL might be containing static attributes about an item. Then finally, you also do have the page source code. This is not recommended. You rather want to use metadata or data layer, as those are the updated components of information. But sometimes the DOM itself is the only place to capture data from. Okay, how can we handle privacy? So MCP needs to adhere to privacy considerations such as the GDPR. You can apply a script on the sitemap to handle this, where you check if a person has consented to cookies or not. And an example here below in the Salesforce Interactions SDK namespace is you want to have a look at the cookie itself, and the right-hand side picture is one of those pop-ups that usually appears on websites, where you need to click accept, and then once that's done, then we can capture that action that the cookie consent equals true. And what then happens is that's when you initiate and run your sitemap. And if you do not accept, then it won't be capturing any data into MCP. Okay, so activation and final thoughts. So you want to have a look at what are the KPIs for the conversion of unknown to known customers, and how important is this to the business? You want to tailor your use cases around this, as data capture might be more valuable than activation of this data at this point in time for a business. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. A use case doesn't have to necessarily be, oh, we're going to be personalizing this and that web page or banner, etc. Actually might be the data that is being captured. And activation can happen through many different methods. You have web personalization, mobile, SFMC journey builder and email triggers, as well as mobile SMS and push notifications. You also have the activation opportunity within Service and Sales Cloud, and also, of course, in external parties as well. All right. That was all for me. Thank you very much. And I think we're going to take some questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Josephine. Team, if any of you have any questions, you can put that in chat or raise hands, and I can enable audio for you guys. Meanwhile, Meera, if you want, you can start getting yours ready. So,
Yeah, sure, Shibu. Let me start sharing my screen.
sure. Yeah. I don't see any questions yet, Josephine. So if something comes up, you can probably just
Yeah,
look at it in chat. Let me. So
absolutely. Thank you.
I'm sure people will reach out like after they go to the recording as well. It's pretty detailed. So thank you so much. Okay, Meera, if you're ready, you can go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, if you can make
Yes.
it full screen.
Yeah. So I hope I can get started.
Can you try to make it full screen?
Okay, you are not able to see this full screen. I already made it full screen actually.
Okay, so then it's not showing the correct one. It's showing the outline actually. So
Okay, give me a second.
sure.
I'm just doing a full screen share. So please confirm if you can see the presentation mode now.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And one more request. So probably if you feel like the screen size or the shared screen size is small, right? On the right side, top right corner, you will be seeing a full screen symbol. So you can click on that. So it is going to give you the full screen mode in on your side actually. That might be better because of some of the slides contain lots of data, so it might not be clear on your end. Okay, so let me get started. So my name is Meera Nair, and I'm currently working as a solution architect at UST, and I am also a Salesforce MVP and leading Trivandrum Architect Community Group. So today I will be sharing some of the implementation related details for Data Cloud. This is from a high level. I hope you will be able to learn something from this presentation. This is the agenda that I'm planning to cover today. So high level overview of what is Data Cloud and why we need Data Cloud. the framework, how it is going to work along with the Einstein platform, and the security, how the security is handled within, say, data cloud, the deployment approaches. Then we are going to see a use case on how we will be able to approach an implementation in Salesforce. So, what is data cloud? I hope you by this time you already know, like, why we need, or what is data cloud. So this is basically a platform to bring 360 view of customer, especially when you have many disconnected system as part of your landscape. You might be having sales cloud, service cloud, marketing cloud, commerce cloud, or there are some other non Salesforce platforms also as part of landscape. And there are so much of data available as part of all these platforms. And if you want to see a unified view of your customer and related information, that is where data cloud is going to help you. And not just the view, right? So Salesforce data cloud is having some additional capabilities to do some kind of additional operations on this data by unifying the data and creating some additional segments that you can then again send back to the source systems or some other systems. So we are going to see those details later, but this is a sample view of how data cloud unified view looks from a user perspective. For example, for this user, you will be able to see uh, many data on the same screen. And this, for this data, the data source is not the single system. It's basically clubbing data from multiple systems and basically bringing to a single screen. Now, why we need data cloud? Because already Salesforce has lots of product and there are like other systems available to specific operation. So we need to really understand what is the use case of utilizing data cloud. So the current or existing Salesforce, like we all of us know, it is a transactional DB, and it's not capable of storing large volume of data or doing operations on a huge volume of data. So, and because of this reason, at this moment, whenever we want to do some kind of analytics operation or machine learning or additional processing, which involves like lots of data processing, most of the time we have to take Salesforce data outside of Salesforce to some other system, an analytic platform or a machine learning platform, do the operations there, then bring back the data to Salesforce. So it's not an easy thing, right? Because the data is leaving the Salesforce platform, it's going to some other system. We are getting less control on the security part, data residency details. Everything is getting affected. So because of all this reason, it's Salesforce introduced Data Cloud. So the major advantage with Data Cloud is that it can handle very large volume of data. It can be like batch data, like huge volume of data can come to the to Data Cloud for processing, or transactional data can come as streaming data to Salesforce. Both type of data can be processed within Data Cloud. And the other advantage is that it can connect to multiple different platforms like Salesforce, CRM, AWS, Google Ads, Meta, Azure platform. All this, for all this different platforms, Salesforce has got its own connectors to connect from Data Cloud to different platforms. And external system, like it's not just bringing in data from external system to Data Cloud, right? You will be able to also sync the resulted data which is processed in Data Cloud. You will be able to sync those data back to the other data also. And there are different approaches for that. And there is also an option query live data, where basically you are accessing the live data, which is known as actually zero copy data. And in addition to utilizing the capabilities within the data cloud to apply some logic or do like machine learning or artificial intelligence operations on that data, so data cloud has got its own capabilities to do these operations, but you will be able to also bring your own AI from external systems like Amazon SageMaker. And the other advantage, like we discussed, when we are bringing data to Data Cloud for processing, the advantage here is that the data is going to reside within the Salesforce platform. The security is maintained because of that. And also, in addition to this, right, the different operations within Data Cloud can be controlled through Salesforce low-code capability flow. Like, you will be able to design or utilize flow to decide like what is going to happen once the data is into Salesforce, which operation needs to be executed. If one of those operation is failing, what needs to happen next? So all those things can be orchestrated within Salesforce using the standard flow capability. Now, this is the overall architecture when we consider Einstein platform. When they introduce Einstein platform, right? This is the overall structure where always you are going to have three layers, right? You will have UI, model, and data, where UI layer consists of all the existing features like the sales, service, marketing platforms, along with the capabilities like flows and everything. So altogether, all this platform is going to make your UI. And in the modern side is where you are going to have additional processing happening utilizing the Einstein, can be utilizing Einstein capabilities like Copilot Builder, Prompt Builder, which is then going to show this data to the platform utilizing Einstein Copilot feature. And as part of the data model, you are going to have data cloud where you are going to fetch data from all these different systems, not just CRM, right? Other systems also, and do your own operation. And then you will be able to sync it back to the UI layer. And now we are going to see, like, how the data cloud is basically working. What are the different types of operations that can be executed in data cloud along with the end-to-end flow. So, like I mentioned, the data sources, it can be any kind of system. Like we will be able to bring data from CRM or from the cloud storage platform or from SDKs or mobile applications through direct APIs. And for systems, like I mentioned, there are so many systems for which standard connectors are available. If there are systems from which you want to get data into data cloud for which standard connectors are not available, that's the moment you will be able to utilize the capability of MuleSoft. So we will be, so within data cloud, they will be creating connectors to fetch data from different source systems, and this can be either in batch data format or streaming data format. So when we are actually fetching data from external systems, right, there are three types of object format within data cloud. The first one is called data source object, which is the standard source data format. So when we are bringing data from Salesforce, you are going to skip basically data source format that will be directly fed into this data lake objects. So data source objects will be mainly applicable when you are going to bring data from non-Salesforce systems. And data lake object is a replica of this data source object itself, but in a data lake format. Then next is the important step during the data mapping process. The data that you collected from the source system needs to be mapped to standard data cloud object format, which is known as data model objects. So Salesforce has got its own standard data model objects corresponding to each of the platform. This is from the Salesforce architect site where they are giving an overview of data model available as part of data cloud, but this is just a subset, I would say, because corresponding to each of the system, right, like sales, service, marketing, commerce, or loyalty management, for each of this different platform, data cloud has got its own data model. So we will be able to, based on the type of data coming in, you will be able to map that to the standard data model objects available, or you will be able to define if the data is not belonging to any of the standard data models available as part of data cloud, you will be able to define your own data model and then do the mapping. So once the data is mapped, that process is known as mapping to data model. That is, data cloud data model is known as harmonization. Once that harmonization is done, right? So I must to tell one more thing, like the type of data. As soon as you are getting data from an external system to data cloud, you need to categorize the data. So data cloud categorize data into three major categories. One is profile data, which includes user or customer or contact related information and account related information. So all these are getting classified as profile data. Then you have got engagement data, like any kind of transaction you are doing. You are doing a purchase, you are creating a case. Those all that kind of data is not known as engagement data. So when you are bringing case data or purchase history to Salesforce, we will be categorizing it as engagement data. Any other type of data will be categorized as other type of data, and you will be able to create your own data models. Then unification process is something you will be applying on this profile data. That is, it's going to work on contact and account only. No other objects can be unified. So unification means when you are getting data from multiple systems. For example, you might be getting contact information from Salesforce, subscriber information from a commerce cloud and marketing cloud. All this data actually shows you the same customer information probably, but the data might be different across different systems. The address can vary, the email used can vary. So unification is the process by which you are going to check all these different systems and come up with a unified view of that particular customer. For that, you will be able to define matching rules within the system, which is going to tell you like which all fields from different systems needs to be mapped to tell what is the correct customer information. And there are like reconciliation rules also, which is going to tell you like, when you are getting same type of data from different systems, like marketing cloud is going to give you contact related information and sales cloud also. Then if the information is varying between both the system, which system is going to take precedence when you are copying data? So that kind of operation is going to happen within this unification process. Once the unification process is completed, then like what additional operations that you want to execute on this data? Probably you want to find out like who are the users who have purchased more than $5,000 worth like shoes or dress in the past 1 month or past 1 year, and you want to run a specific campaign for those users. So identifying the users satisfying a specific criteria, that is what part of this analysis or prediction process. For that, you will be able to utilize either data cloud provided capabilities, or you will be able to bring external data like machine learning tools or AI tools to do that operation for you. Then you will be able to push that to data cloud. Once you have identified or build what you want to implement or what you want to get out of data cloud, then it is the act operation where you are going to send this operation or data to outside of your system. Maybe I will be able to show you a better architecture diagram which is going to give some more clarity. This is again a sample data cloud architecture diagram provided by Salesforce itself. You might feel like it's very complex, but it's not basically. I can get started from one end of this. You can see like bottom part, you are seeing whatever you are seeing, right? All those are your source systems from which the data will be synced to data cloud. Similarly, on the left hand side, you have got additional source systems. And there is a differentiation between all the system, how the data is captured. And if you see the legends here, right, all this dotted lines depicts that it is like a scheduled operation is going to happen. And there might be specific scenarios when you want to work on like real-time data or engagement data. Probably as an example, right, when there is some support related issue or someone, a customer wants to raise a case, he might be looking through or walking through multiple support sites, and based on that automatically you want to create a case within Salesforce even before the customer is creating a case. So that's a transactional or real-time data. In that case, you are going to utilize either ingestion APIs or streaming APIs, or you will be able to use the standard APIs itself. So in these two different ways, data can be ingested to Salesforce. So like you can see the data streams, there will be batch data streams, or there will be streaming, or there will be like virtual, like bring your own lake from external system. Once this data is collected to Salesforce through data streams, like we have seen, data lake objects are automatically getting created, and we need to do mapping by ourselves to create data model objects, and the identity or unification process is going to get executed on top of that. From that, like we discussed, the insights are going to get built. For example, like I already told you some examples, right? Who are the users who has done more than $5,000 worth purchase in the past 1 month? So those are like insights, and insights can be of two types: streaming insights or calculated insights. Streaming insights is on the engagement data. Calculated insights is on the batch data, which may be on customer or like opportunity, those kind of data. And once you have this insight built within data cloud, that needs to be synced back to the other platform. For example, you have find out customers who has purchased more than $5,000 worth products. Then we will be creating something called activation targets within data cloud. Activation target is going to define to which system the created insights or segmented data needs to send to. So that is called activation targets. And this created segments can be then sent to this different system like marketing cloud or other marketing platform or platforms like Google Ads. So that's a process of activation. That's one way of sending this data. The other way is through data actions. Data actions means it can be either webhooks, especially this is on streaming data, and it can be either on streaming data or calculated insights. But this is going to be somewhat real-time communication from the system to external systems. So this can be either through platform events to CRM system, through webhooks to any system that can support or subscribe to webhook. So these are some of the different ways which the end-to-end operations will be happening within data cloud. And in addition to that, you can see a right-hand side bottom portion where you are going to utilize an external AI prediction or AI system to come up with your ML predictions operation. So this is another capability, you will be able to bring external logic within Salesforce or data cloud to do your own operation. Now, your data is within data cloud. What are the different ways by which the security is maintained? Because in Salesforce we know the security is going to be maintained using multiple mechanisms, like you will have profiles, permission sets to define what kind of data you can access. Then the record level data visibility is maintained through like sharing rules, or yeah, basically through sharing rules and organization by defaults. Now let us see how it is getting handled in data cloud. The first thing is, like we are seeing with any other system or any other product of Salesforce, is through permission set. There are different types of permission sets defined, like mainly two parts: the standard permission set and data cloud permission set. So this is going to give you an overview on, for each type of permission set, what specific operation that user will be able to execute as part of the system. For example, the data stream creation will be executed by a specific set of users, and the segmentation will be created by a separate set of users. So I have added the link here which actually talks in detail about which permission set is going to provide you with specific type of permission. So second operation or second way by which the security is maintained is through data spaces. So data spaces will be introduced. By default, data cloud will be provided with a single data space which is going to club together all the data getting ingested to data cloud. When you need to define basically a data space, that is when you need to control the visibility. All users should not be seeing all the data. Instead of that, you want to come up with a segregation based on the region, department, or any other type of categorization you want to build to data cloud. That time you will come up with multiple data spaces. Here's an example, like you have got three data spaces, and each data space will be coming up with its own data model objects, data lake objects, and identity operation insights. Everything will be data space specific, and by default, corresponding to each of the data space, data cloud will be creating a permission set, and you can assign that permission set to a specific user who want to get access to that particular data space. That's how the security or the access and visibility is getting controlled within data cloud. Now, we need to understand like how deployment can happen from a data cloud instance to another instance. And I'm not fully sure if data Salesforce is currently providing with sandboxes, because I heard from one of the latest TDX presentation is that they are going to roll out sandboxes very soon. Otherwise, if you want to migrate changes from one instance to another, there are two options available. One is like metadata API, like any other Salesforce component, you can utilize metadata API to migrate that details from one instance to another. The other option is packaging. Like for data cloud also, you will be able to create both managed and unmanaged packages. And there is one additional feature provided by data cloud to support the packaging, which is known as data kit. In data kit, the advantage is that you will be able to create multiple data kits, and you can club together the related data. For example, a data stream and the related objects, if you want to club together and you want to migrate that to another data cloud instance, you will be able to do like that utilizing data kit. Now, to see how we will be able to implement a specific use case as part of data cloud, I have a sample use case, and this is actually a best practice suggested by Salesforce also. Whenever you want to give a try with data cloud, right, instead of trying out too many use cases, you come up with a single simple use case, try to implement it, prove that data cloud is the right use case and it is working, it is capable of solving all the issues or whatever you want to solve, then only go ahead and try with additional use cases. So let us see sample use case here. So what it is talking about is, you want to launch an exclusive campaign introducing latest car models to customers who has purchased vehicles 3 years ago. And not only you need to introduce campaigns to them, but also capture interested customers or prospective customers into Salesforce. So this requirement has got two parts, and probably we might be running this like monthly or bi-monthly. That's the way probably this campaign needs to run. Now, from a data cloud perspective, how we need to approach this, that's very critical, and let us see how we can do that. First and foremost thing for any data cloud implementation is to identify the use case that we already defined as part of the use case definition. Like, this is what we are trying to solve utilizing data cloud, that is launching an exclusive campaign and you want to identify prospective customers. Now, next question is, for this, what kind of data you need to process? So the requirement is saying you want to basically identify users or customers who purchase cars in the like cars 3 years back. So it's basically the car purchase history or the car transaction history is what you want to get into your system for processing. Now, we need to also identify with this data what is the end result you are trying to achieve. So we already seen two use cases. One is like to run a campaign to all these customers. Then from these customers, identify who would like to purchase new cars. These are the two end result we are expecting out of this particular operation. Now, for this, like we have seen, there is transaction history is what, or the purchase history is what we want to process on. So we need to identify what is the source system. There can be any type of the data can be stored in any kind of source system. So as an example, we are assuming like, our data is stored in two different systems. One is like Commerce Cloud, standard Salesforce platform itself. And in most of the cases, when we are looking for very old data, right, it might have been archived already to a data warehouse or a data lake. So in that case, the data is sourced along with Commerce Cloud from a data warehouse also. Now, we identified our source systems. Now, we need to identify our destination systems. So, again, two operations like the running of a campaign. So, definitely, when we want to run campaigns against a mass set of customers, Salesforce does not, like CRM, Sales Cloud does not has that capability. So, we are always depending on a marketing cloud instance to do that. So once the campaign is run, there should be a mechanism by which you need to identify the interested customers, and those customers needs to be getting loaded to Salesforce Sales Cloud itself, so that probably they might be getting created as leads into Sales Cloud. Then you need to work along with them to create additional sales or like create opportunity, then work on that and convert that to an order itself. So that end-to-end process should be happening within Sales Cloud. So the two systems that we are going to interact with are like Marketing Cloud and Sales Cloud. And what is the next step? Now we identified the source system and the source data format. We need to understand like what kind of ingestion ingestion format, volume, frequency we are going to follow. The ingestion format, like I mentioned, it can be either batch process or like a streaming process. Since this is a historical data, and we are expecting the data to be fed to Salesforce based on the campaign frequency. It can be monthly or can be bi-monthly. That's the like we are expecting the data needs to be getting loaded into Salesforce as a batch only. So it's going to be a batch process, and the expected volume, it can be anything. Like, as an example, I'm just mentioning it is we are expecting like it's 5,000 per day. It might be more. It might be more also in that case. It's not a per day activity actually. It's going to be a one-time load to Salesforce system. And we need to understand the source data category. Like I mentioned, we have got two types or three types of category, right? Profile information, then we have got engagement data and other category. This is like an engagement data, right? It's a historical transaction or purchase related information. So we need to capture or categorize this as an engagement data in the system. Then we need to identify for the data that is fed to data cloud, do we need to apply any kind of transformation or unification process on top of this? Since it's an engagement data, of course, we don't need to execute unification. But if you need to do some kind of transformation, like convert a particular date format into something else, create some kind of formula fields, that you will be able to execute at this stage. So I'm not considering any of those kind of operation at this moment. Now, what you need to identify, what kind of insight or segmentation you want to do or execute on top of this batch data that has got fed to data cloud. So what we need to do is we need to identify the customers which are satisfying the criteria, like customers who purchase cars from this particular company 3 years back. That is the insight or segmentation that we want to do as part of the system. So once you have this data, right, you need to send this data to an external system where this campaign is going to happen. That is our activation target. Our activation target is marketing cloud. So the segmentation of data that we identified, that is identified set of customers, needs to send to a marketing cloud instance. And once from this segmented data, the campaign is run in marketing cloud, you are getting the prospective customers. That prospective customers need to then send to sales cloud. For that, we will be utilizing data action. So this, from a high level, these are the approach by which you will be approaching a particular use case on how that can be implemented in Salesforce. Then there will be a basic question as part of your best practice of implementation, right? The data cloud, where it should reside, actually, whether it should be in the same org as your sales cloud or service cloud, or it should be a different org. So there are multiple factors that is going to decide on this. Most of the time, if you do not have multiple departments, multiple geography which that you need to deal with, and the same set of users are going to work on the data cloud data, then it can be on the same data cloud, or it can be a single data cloud instance also. If that is not the case, if there are multiple areas or departments for which you need to do different type of operation, then probably better to consider a different data cloud org compared to your existing org. And Salesforce was mentioning, like for most of their data cloud implementation, right, 90% of their customers has gone with a new data cloud instance, which is separated from their existing implementation. And the license type definition also very key. We are not going to cover that here, but basically they have got a credit based system, and Salesforce by default they have made it available, like for all the enterprise and unlimited edition, you will have a data cloud instance with a limited credit. But according to Salesforce, at least two full use cases you will be able to implement utilizing the available license. Now, for the discuss scenario, this is a quick high-level data flow diagram where we have seen our data sources as Commerce Cloud and Data Warehouse, from where the purchase history will be sent to Data Cloud as batch data. And then within Data Cloud, a segmentation operation will be getting executed. We will be creating the activation target, defining the activation target as marketing cloud, and that data will be sent to marketing cloud, basically the list of customers who are satisfying the criteria. Now in the marketing cloud, they will be executing the campaign, running the campaign, sending out emails to specific customers about, for that campaign, and capturing the details. And based on the customer interaction, they might have opened the email, that means they are interested in this deal. So that kind of information will be fed back to data cloud for additional processing. They might want to do some additional processing on the resulted data to identify or segregate based on the region or segment. So those kind of operations will be happening in data cloud. They will be finding out the correct set of customers to which correct set of users who are interested in this, to purchase a new model of car. So that data then needs to send to sales cloud. So that can be sent as a data action. That is, data cloud can fire a platform event with the customer related information who would like to purchase new car. And within Salesforce can subscribe to that platform event, and utilizing the subscribe operation through Flow or Apex, you can then create a lead within Sales Cloud. From there, the sales team will be able to work on this particular newly created leads. Now, since we have seen some high level operations, right? There are two common questions that we are normally hearing from people. Like one is data cloud and a master data system for you. So even per Salesforce, right? Data cloud is not a MDM system because we are not working on identifying a golden record within the system, even though we are collecting data from multiple systems. Instead of that, you are actually creating a united view of that customer, and it is still referring to all the source system. The reference to all the different source systems are still maintained. So this is basically not an MDM system, but more acting like a data lake. The other question is like, is data cloud is going to be a backup solution? Like different people might be having different perspective on this, but I feel based on my experience, this is not a data backup solution also, because if you want to consider this as a backup of data, right, you need to probably store that in the same format, and probably whenever needed you need to retrieve back and send it back to the source system. But here we are basically doing some operations on the data that is fetched to data cloud, formatting that to a different format, and then doing some additional operations. So what I feel is data cloud is not at all a backup solution. Here I have given some set of references also that you can later take a look, which details on all the different aspects that we discussed. By this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and if there are any questions, we can take it.
Awesome. Thanks, Meera. Detailed as well. Team, if anybody has any questions, you can please post on chat.
Thank you so much, Meera. We have one question from Lakshmi. Meera, could you please give another use case statement, just like a food for thought, how to think the solution of ordered activities?
Okay, I guess Lakshmi is looking for a scenario when we are like a sample food ordering application, which will be able to give you some kind of preferred orders, like, right? I guess that's what you are looking for, right? Like whatever we are seeing as part of any kind of food order delivery application, that is another use case. Yes. So again, it's not part of the same data cloud. I don't really think like data cloud has that full capability to come up with that AI prediction. In this case also, you can definitely take data from multiple order like food delivery applications. You can get that data into Salesforce. You will be able to do some kind of segmentation, but for coming up with a prediction of like what they will be what food they would like to order in future, you need to apply some kind of machine learning on top of your data and come up with prediction, right? So as per my understanding, you need to depend upon that particular logic to an external AI model, because it's somewhat bit more complex. It might not be directly a use case that will be completely we will be able to implement within data cloud, but data cloud will be able to integrate with the external systems to execute that logic. This is what I feel. I hope, Lakshmi, that's what you are looking for. Okay. And another use case, I guess, even Salesforce was mentioning, like, automatically, right, act on requests from customers, or even before they want to raise a case, right? They are facing some issue. So as soon as you are seeing a customer is scanning through different portals or help portals or support portals, that information can be captured back to data cloud. Even without the customer raise a case, you will be able to raise a case on behalf of that customer and notify the customer that we have raised a case on behalf of you. So those kind of proactive operations can be also part of data cloud implementation.
Thank you so much, Meera. Thank you so much, Josephine. Let's give it another 1 to 2 minutes, see if anyone else have any questions.